for preaching efforts.
Who should respond? How about Govardhan Prabhu responding to
before
this?
Before we respond, maybe they can clarify a little bit. Savyasachi, please.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to request, Maharaj, that if we can read from the proposed letter, then it's more complete. This
I don't.
The agenda.
I don't know where that is. You see that? I have this document which you send me. Now,
This was for the agenda. We abbreviated a few things. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I'll have it ready on my side to add if it's not clear.
Please, you clarify and add. So, Savyasachi, can you please expand on the point and explain the background?
The second one has to do with our initiative being legitimized by the ISKCON movement, which we serve under, and given permissions to fundraise within the ISKCON ecosystem, and either as an ISKCON project or an affiliate. Sometimes maybe the use of the name ISKCON attached to a certain body may not be favorable to the management. So we are happy to be like something like a Food for Life, which is an ISKCON body, but it's also an independent in its registration and its management structure. So even for point one, it was a matter of trying to get the permissions, and then the temple presidents could take charge of informing the devotees at large that there will be such types of programs which are specialized for African preaching. Something, for example, is like we would do programs on Saturday in Santin with the university students. So then that they would come, they experience temple environment, less the cultural shock and sort of need to immediately interact with congregation. So making a program at the temple involves cooking in kitchens, using gas facility. So we don't want to create a disturbance where congregation isn't aware. Why are these people using the kitchen? Why are they, So that was for point number one, which we were requesting.
Okay. And yeah, and I think you're looking also for that support, right, from the communities where they will not immediately give you a bill for everything, the electricity, the gas, that just as, yes, that they not only allow the preaching activities to go on, but that they also embrace them as, as part of the activities that are meant to go on in the centers and that are welcome and an asset. And as far as the second point, the written authorization, where the group becomes recognized as an affiliate and gets permission to do fundraising for preaching efforts, obviously is important for them to be able to do something. Hare Krishna, can you please mute? Someone is... All right, so could we get a response from one of the South African National Council members about this authorization to raise funds, be a recognized affiliate?
So, Maharaj, I could just help with that. There is a grouping at the moment who is a member of the South African National Council, the MBZO. So I assume that this is a separate grouping. There is an ISKCON law provision for affiliates, so that could be done. But most certainly, you've got to have the ability to raise funds to support your preaching. So we could do two things. The best way to fundraise is through an 18A entity, and we have one of our devotees who does legal and governance, he's able to maybe facilitate that. But you know, in essence, absolutely, we can help structure something that WuSA could use. And we'll have to go back to the National Council to see, because the National Council has a constitution that kind of regulates its membership and voting and non-voting. But it's very important for the National Council itself to become transformed. So this may be a very good opportunity for us to look at the National Council constitution. I'm hoping what will come out of this is a small grouping of working group that we can work the details out. But in principle, I don't see a problem. I think it's necessary to support the primary objective of WuSA, to have the ability to fundraise and fundraise widely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are there any responses from the WuSA side?
Maybe I
Yes,
can say
please.
something. I apologize. I had load shedding a little bit earlier.
Oh.
But we appreciate that level of support, and we do know that the letter was written on a very high level, you know, to get that in principle agreement. I think that WuSA recognizes that we have a responsibility as well to satisfy that there will be proper governance, especially where monies are involved, that we have representatives that are accountable, and that there is some kind of oversight from ISKCON or the National Council with regards to our activities and expenditure.
All right. So Govardhan Prabhu proposed to take this up in detail in a subcommittee. Govardhan Prabhu mentioned yes, in principle, this is very good. He explained there is a constitution by which the South African National Council operates that may need some adjustments also to be more accommodating. He wants to take it back to the National Council as well, and he suggests to create a work group, a committee that will focus and just work on the details of this.
Could I just throw in just a word,
please,
or 10? You know, in terms of how it would be, whether it would be like ISKCON or who's this? Oh, Kartik. Whether it's ISKCON or it's an affiliate, just in that context, you know, I don't at this point, I don't see any good reason why it wouldn't just be like, you could say, a department of ISKCON, as opposed to like a real separate entity. At least, you know, in talking in principle, I don't see why there would be any need for it to be anything other than just an ISKCON entity.
Okay. I noted it down, Maharaj.
Okay.
Or affiliate. I am noting that. Right. I guess that would be, you know, some topic that would be in the more detailed discussion. That would be again on the table, and the pros and cons, and from both sides, and why, the rationale behind it. But in principle, okay, Maharaj, it's clear, and it's a good response. So I think we can move on the agenda to the next point, unless Savisachi, yes.
I think Navina Radhika had something to say.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see that.
Perhaps we can clarify why the need for independence, and this is I guess one of the difficult parts of the conversation to have. So in our meetings with African devotees, the fear was around being again under the control and micromanagement of the existing GBC. And the main fears are about what that then results in terms of innovation, in terms of involvement of African devotees who may not have faith in the existing management. So the permissions that are being sought are to be recognized as part of ISKCON, as being a Krishna conscious entity, and through the structure, perhaps it's an NPO, nonprofit organization, or whatever we end up registering it as, we are able to engage with the authorities in order to comply with whatever is required for an affiliate. But the idea is not to merge into existing structures that African devotees are already feeling challenged in terms of engaging with. So the request for independence is an opportunity for a working space that African people can freely explore their creativity and control in order to meet Krishna conscious objectives.
Mhm. Mhm. All right. Anyone else would like to comment on that? Okay, so it seems we have a little bit some rationale on either side, right? On the two models, the ISKCON department model, as Maharaj described, and then we heard from Nalina Radhika why the idea of an affiliate which works in compliance with the National Council and is accountable to the National Council, but at the same time would have some of its own identity to create a greater trust level amongst its members. And if that's required, then we can consider, yeah, that is a possible necessity. Where are we now? Oh. So I have the third point, and Sabyasachi, as I'm reading it out from the agenda you sent me, and I just don't have the letter at hand, you can, if there is more, you can please clarify that. The third, oh, yes.
I just wanted to just add a little something on the second point also.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
The experience is that there's many devotees, especially from the African community, who want to be involved with Krishna conscious activities, but due to previous experiences with management and they feel that they would like to get involved but not be immediately in touch with existing structures. So this initiative aims to then give them that space to slowly get back into their practices and involvement in a place where they may feel safe or sort of identify with because of its being run, managed, and directed by African devotees. So that's why this need for it having its own identity at the same time being completely a initiative surrendered to the mandates of Srila Prabhupada and Spreading Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON South Africa.
Okay. So are the members of the GBC and the National Council feeling more comfortable now with that idea, or how should we look at that? Because this is obviously a very, like foundational point in the whole discussion, something that that means a lot to the issue. So,
Maharaj, could I ask a question, Sir Damodar?
yes.
Just a point of clarification. You know, if we have an entity that's legally constituted and has the same rights as, say, any major temple like Phoenix or Stanton or Cape Town, Radharanath Temple, they have a certain very wide level of autonomy and independence in the way they operate and the way they conceive of plans, but still functioning under the umbrella body of the South African National Council. Would that be as autonomous or independent as is necessary to achieve these goals and to make some of the disenfranchised African devotees feel a little more secure and confident?
Oh, yeah, Navina Radhika.
I think absolutely we would need to have an understanding, a better understanding of the relationship that exists between those temples and how they're affiliated, with ISKCON, because we can't speak on, we've never had that experience. I don't understand it fully. But it sounds like, from my experience and from what I've seen, that would be appropriate. That is a model that we could look at and maybe customize or tweak until both parties are comfortable. But yes, I think that kind of autonomy would be welcomed.
Well, one thing I think later on in the next, maybe the fifth one, the fifth point also kind of lends to the discussion that we're having now, is that we are also hopeful that we can transform the South African National Council to be a more representative, a more dynamic, a more, outreach-based, focused group or leadership group. So that hopefully if that transformation happens nicely and progressively, then that can also instill faith in the general body of African devotees. I think these two things will go hand in hand: the transformation of the leadership in the country and how or where the WuSA or this group is situated, independently or as an entity working under the South African National Council.
Yeah, well, it's a good idea to kind of on the agenda when we go on further discussion to go there and take a 0.5 and then take up 4 and 6 and I like that. The matter is that what's happening today is a initial discussion, and obviously you don't get into every detail. It's a discussion where you're kind of looking to see where there is a sense of mutual agreement, and then it will take some more time to in other discussions to work in smaller working groups to work out details. And but we're glad that the reason for that has been presented for having a more independence as an affiliated entity, and yet also be strongly connected to the National Council. That model is what we're really looking at. That's becoming clear. Then when it comes to 0.5 on the agenda, which is recommendation for SANC to allow for greater participation by senior African devotees in their structure. I think that means in participation, not only in the structure under the SANC, but also in the structure of the SANC itself. And that it means devotees, more participation of mature African devotees on the National Council. And I think with the idea to create a better facility for outreach to the community at large in South Africa, and also a better facility for devotees who are already staying, who are already part of the membership of ISKCON South Africa, and that African devotees are encouraged, are supported, so that they can adapt to the to Srila Prabhupada's movement, which is that bridge is required, and that shelter is required, that support is required, and the preaching should also develop towards in a broader way, reaching out to the African community, which we hopefully can achieve when more devotees of the African community join the National Council. Then we hope to also get more of a vision on the council for those kind of activities.
Could I throw in a couple of words there?
Maharaj.
You know, if there is like a grouping of any devotees, just any devotees anywhere, to establish like a serious program of Krishna consciousness in South Africa, then it's not really just a matter of can they be members of the National Council, but it's more like they have to be members of the National Council because they're part of the national program. And if there's a few groups around, like a temple, like your disciple in East London, he and his program, it's a very small program, as you know, but he has to be a member of the National Council because it's a program that's going on somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter whether they're white or African or Indian or colored. This is all irrelevant, really. It's just, it's a program. It's going on, and it's got to be included, because we don't have just like you could say, I mean, to take it to an extreme, loose cannons just floating around
Right.
the South African social environment, kind of representing ISKCON, but you know, they have to be connected nicely.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good point, Maharaj. And of course, you know, as Govardhan Prabhu mentioned earlier, that the National Council is governed by a constitution. So it may, at the moment, we see that the National Council is very much made up of temple presidents who are leading representing the various interest groups and a few others. And we may have to look at adjusting the structure to accommodate adequate participation, so that there's and that may require some study of the situation and some changes in the constitution and the structure or whatever.
Sure, definitely.
I also haven't studied the constitution of the South African National Council, so I cannot exactly oversee here what fits or what doesn't, how it would all fit. But I could imagine that what the spirit is of this point is that there would be a group, not just a symbolic representative of WuSA, but rather that there would be a group that would join the National Council and would get their get a voice, and not only a voice, also a vote and so forth,
Sure.
and be
Of course.
full participating members. Yeah.
Of course. Definitely.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah. 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 Okay. 1 second. The device went to sleep. So on this point, anything more from the WuSA side? Any of the devotees would like to contribute something? Or yes, Navina Radhika.
Just to comment further, Marge, on the spirit of why this point was raised, is that we were also observing what took place on social media, and being African people, why that the issue of race was relevant when it comes to the constituency or the bodies on the National Council, and why we recommended a greater proportion of African people to be within that leadership structure, was just a simple logical reasoning that if you're existing in a country where the population by far is African bodied, you may have temple presidents there that are representing initiatives or projects, but if the results are yielding a group or population group or demographic that isn't representative of the rest of the country, then perhaps having more faces and having more bodies that understand the African context. And I think that South Africa has produced devotees that are African bodied that could be of the caliber and the quality that can serve in that capacity. But if you have a broader participation in the leadership of the institution of African people, then you may develop perspectives and you may develop strategies and ideas that will speak to the broader part of the population. So the issue of race, outside of the spiritual and credits, came up that if we have more faces that represent African people, there might be better insights in terms of leadership in South Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well spoken. Sorry, who was saying? Sir Daminer, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Navina Radhika Mataji. That's such an important point, that we need to strategically look at the reconstituting of the National Council, and I think that's like a foundational principle, how to change our mindset and our view of the preaching landscape, but rather by using or inviting a more broader sort of exposure of what's out there and how to develop things. So personally, I'll be looking forward to something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if I may personally respond to this, I have also, over the years, for a long time, made this point that in order for the Hare Krishna movement to be relevant to South Africa as a whole, right, we need African devotees in the foreground in the movement to start leading the movement, and that is certainly the future. Of course, there are many devotees from other communities, especially many devotees from an Indian community, and that's highly appreciated for their devotion, their service, and all their good qualities and contributions. But to be more relevant to the country as a whole, yes, there is a need for African devotees to come up in leadership roles. And I would say, not only like so that the African devotees feel more facilitated, but I feel that we should more put the African devotees in the foreground. So eventually in our preaching, so that also we connect better with society at large. And that this effort should be part of that greater vision of making ISKCON South Africa maybe more relevant to its environment. So Savyasachi.
I think this is also speaking to this point of having an entity which is a bit independent, in that not really waiting for African devotees to sort of be provided space in the National Council or to rise up whatever ranks, but that there's already an initiative where they can already be leaders and they can have direct experience of the field as leaders. And then when they're coming to engage with National Council, they are coming as people with a lived and direct experience of leading, taking responsibility, and actually preaching. So because, as Govindan Prabhu mentioned, constitutions are there for the National Council and how things work. And to adjust such things, can take, who knows how long. So a new initiative which opens up a whole plethora of leadership roles for African devotees is a big contribution to the training and to the engagement of such persons, and seeing the potential that is there in Africans to do the preaching.
Thank you. Very good. Any other of the WuSA panel members, or Govardhan Prabhu? No.
Maharaj, I just want to say, really, what Navina Radhika said really resonates. I mean, to be really factually honest, this is not we shouldn't be debating this. We really have to take the South African National Council and really make these adjustments. It's necessary. Embarrassed it's not done as yet. And to Savyasachi Prabhu's point, I don't think it's such an onerous process, because the Constitution is a 6-page document. I mean, I could personally, with Sarup Damodar Prabhu's help, Navina and Savyasachi, sit for a weekend and do it if necessary. But we have to go back to the members in the South African National Council, have the discussion. I don't think there's going to be any opposition to it. But the point is, we have to do it and set a timeline by when this would be done, because it's necessary. It's very necessary.
Jambavan?
Hare Krishna to everyone. Hare Krishna. Yes, Govardhan Prabhu, it's necessary, but why has it taken so long? And in case we don't get obscured, we speak about black devotees, not African devotees, because African is very vague. We speak about black devotees. Hare Krishna.
All right. So, Jambavan, what would you like?
So long? Why has it taken so long?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I could answer that question. The initiatives that were there in the past, this has always been top of mind, but there really was, in whatever initiatives that were there, were not really as pronounced as it ought to be. Srila Prabhupada gave an order when he came to South Africa. And from the 3 instructions he gave, this instruction lies unfulfilled. And now that you have an infrastructure, you have resources, it takes some courage now to sit down and try and relocate and readjust things to address what was not addressed quickly enough in the past. So to say that why it's not been done, well, there were some fragmented pieces of it. Now we're talking about, WuSA's suggestion is a very good one, that we deal with this very holistically, time bound, so we can get past this together as all of Srila Prabhupada's grandchildren, and we can build a better movement for our children and those who come after us. That would be my opinion. I don't know if Sarup Damodar has a comment to that, or Prabhanu Rajabasi.
So why is it taking so long?
Yeah, Jambavan Prabhu, that is a question that I don't know how to answer, except to say that it is a failing. It is definitely a failing that has to be rectified. And if, as I'm confident is the goal and the vision behind all the devotees here, is to capacitate and push preaching, the Black African preaching as a priority, then let's find the optimal place, the optimal vehicle to push it forward. And if you know, in open and honest, frank discussion, we find that transformation of the National Council, even though it's taken so long, even though it's been a past failing of the leadership, if we find that it is the optimal way, then I can only appeal to you and other concerned devotees to give it one concerted shot, one concerted attempt, and make that transformation a reality and use that vehicle to do major or experience major accomplishments for the pleasure of Prabhupada in this country.
Yeah. Yeah, I also feel that these kind of meetings, they are sometimes born out of frustration and so on, and out of devotees feeling stifled and or not accommodated. But I think it's very good that such meetings are happening, and I welcome it very much, because I think out of this, I really hope something constructive can come. And I see that the mood is very good, and I'm happy with that constructive mood. From okay, maybe it took long, but let's make a change now, and for the better. Right? Savisachi.
Okay. I just wanted to ask from the National Council then, would it be fine for us to go ahead and register the WuSA initiative as a non-profit?
Savisachi Prabhu, you know, there is an entity that we've created recently for a similar initiative. Maybe it's tax, it's got an 18A tax exemption, etc. I just need to discuss with the other devotees. I think that legal structure would be the best for you. It's actually also an NPO, I think. Maybe we can take that discussion after this meeting. It might be it'll speed up what you're trying to do, and it has all the fundraising, tax, you know, advantages.
Okay, we can see what you have, so we can compare if we do it will work better, or if we take what you already have.
Okay, Savisachi, can you just chair for 2 minutes and allow me a little stop, and I'll be back in 2 minutes. Thank you.
We can see that Pauline Matiji. Oh, Mahaprabhu. Sorry, Pauline.
Can I say something?
Yes, please,
Prabhu. On the point of why did it take so long? You see, like, I feel that this topic is not being attended or given the what you call the attention that it needed. And unfortunately, in the past, it came to a point where most of the what you call the things that are being discussed are being put under the carpet, and then we forget about that. But unfortunately, a few years later, they resurface, you know, and then again, we don't deal with the topic enough, and then we put them under the carpet again, and then they always come back and resurface. And I always think that, you know, Krishna cannot give us a test that we cannot pass. Krishna will give us the test. If we don't pass the test, it will always come back. It will always come back until we deal with it properly. And I think this topic, because it keeps coming back again, when it resurfaces much more stronger than previously. And now it is striking us so strong. And I think a forum like this, we have to deal with this thing sufficiently so that it doesn't come back again. If we put them under the carpet again, it will always come back and resurface. That's my point.
Okay.
So,
Hare Krishna.
spiritual perspective also, that Krishna is, he tests us, and if we don't pass, then again the test comes because he wants us to pass the test. And
Exactly.
it is true that in this area of the feelings and experiences of the African devotees and their role in our current ISKCON South Africa, and their voices are not getting sufficient platform to be heard, and also to express their spirit of surrender to Prabhupada. And so when it comes back louder. And that is why, as WuSA, we were thinking that instead of always coming back to the same structure to say, please hear us, please adjust something in the Constitution, help us fit into the structure, just legitimize us to be in that mind state and identify with Africans, we're African people. And we want to take care of that initiative and not always want to come back to ask, please go and decide the National Council what to do with us, because we are not illegitimate children. We are legitimate children of this movement. We're initiated people in this movement, and we are part of the majority of this movement, well, of the country in terms of population. And so this is one of the talking points so that we can finally deal with the issue. So thank you, Mahaprabhu.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, as far as then the, so as far as the point 3, request for a structure to be put in place,
Sorry, there was a Mother Pauline, I think, had something to say.
Okay, all right, yes, please.
You can unmute yourself.
You're muted. Mother Pauline, you're muted. Please
Okay.
unmute yourself.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, I just wanted to say it's really nice that you're having this meeting, and Dandavat pranams to all of you. Just been sort of very involved in this case for the past 30 years, since I first came to South Africa and spent a lot of time in East Africa. So I have very close contact with devotees in Kenya, Uganda, and in America, and it's the same, exactly the same issue going on there. It seems that we don't have this problem in Ghana because I think you probably all know why. There's not this issue in West Africa. It's very different. The African devotees run their own temple. They're not controlled by anyone. They don't actually really even know what this racism is. Unless you actually go to South Africa or East Africa, you don't actually know what it is. It's very shocking. It's very disgraceful. It's a very long story. It's totally draining. But my point is, the devotees in East Africa don't know about this meeting. They're trying to log in. Nobody can get in. Like I said, they've got exact same struggle as you, and my point is that South Africa, East Africa, where this racial injustice is going on in our movement, the devotees should join together as one body, because East Africa is fighting, getting nowhere. South Africa is fighting, like you say, it's taken 30 years. We don't know, we'll be dead soon. In our lifetime, we wanted to see a change on this issue. So I'm just humbly requesting that could South Africa and East Africa please join together, because we've tried so much. We had even mediation flying in from South Africa, ISKCON Resolve, meetings, and absolutely nothing, and it's very frustrating. It really is, for many devotees, a waste of your life, because you want to preach in Africa to African devotees. You can't do it because of the, whatever you want to call it, in ISKCON, you can't do it. And so you either give up or you know, many devotees just go and do their own kind of preaching in their own way. You know, so if you really want to be successful, you need to unite the two parts of Africa together. That's all I have to say. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. Thank you for that. Tribhuvana. Right. In about 15 minutes, Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj would have to leave, and because of discussions with the GBC Executive Committee. Correct, Maharaj?
Yeah, well, that's definitely true, but I don't know if that needs to affect this discussion. I don't know if devotees will feel that if I'm not there, you know, that I just should be there, here, I mean, on this, or if they can just carry on without me for the time being. And, you know, whenever the next discussion takes place, I can be there. I don't know. I'm not sure how the devotees feel about that.
So let's hear from Savisachi, Navina Radhika about that. Should we continue the discussion without Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj, or should we end and resume when Maharaj is available again?
Okay.
Please, Savisachi.
Yes, we could continue, but then put a time limit to it so that I guess it's constructive enough. I think it wouldn't be a problem.
All right. So what?
Yeah. If you feel it's just whether I need to be present, that's all. That's the thing. Otherwise, you can go on for as long as you like or as short as you like. That's not the point. The point is my presence.
Yes, Marge, you could be free to leave because Govardhan is also there as co-GBC.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Navina Radhika had her hand up.
No, I'm in agreement with Savisachi Prabhu Maharaj.
Okay, very good. All right, Maharaj, we understand that when you have to leave that then that has to be.
Yeah.
And I think all of this, the discussion is recorded from what I see at the top of my screen. So, you know, I think later on you can also hear what else, whatever was discussed in your absence and just
Sure.
Updated.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll just depart in a few minutes unceremoniously.
What to do? Yes. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, Ramba Maharaj?
Yes.
Further to Savisachi Prabhu's point, maybe we can have a rising time for the meeting. And I think we probably won't be anywhere near conclusion, so maybe we should decide to commence again, or rather resume again tomorrow morning, sometime late morning.
Yeah, that's very good. You know, like, I just wanted to hear Tribhuvanat because I don't want to kill his mood of wanting to respond, and then I wanted to discuss extending the meeting for how much time.
Okay.
Tribhuvanat.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Well, I have a few points I wanted to raise or maybe question. One of them is a point of timelines in terms of you know, moving forward in terms of, you know, the second point that I wanted to make is in relation to this point of timelines that you know, Govardhan Prabhu was talking about how, you know, they'll need to go back and discuss the reconstruction of the constitution with the SANC, with the other members of the SANC. So in terms of, you know, the timelines, how long will that take for, you know, for you to get back and, you know, and give a sort of like a conclusive, you know, decision on that? That's my first question. And then the second question that I have is, why is it that in terms of, you know, with the SANC and when you look at the representation of the SANC, is that majority of the devotees who are on the SANC are Indian-bodied. So my question will be, you know, why would it be that now when you go and consult with the members of the SANC in terms of the lives of, you know, of the African, well, Black African devotees within ISKCON South Africa, why would you not then include certain representatives of the Black South African devotees in your discussions in terms of making a decision which is going to be affecting our lives? Because right now it's the same thing that happened with Imbizo, is that it's a whole thing of, you know, certain points are made in terms of, you know, okay, the whole point of there's racism within South Africa or within ISKCON South Africa. So that was one of the points that was discussed. And, you know, I would say like about 5 or not, if not 2% of the, you know, of the representatives of the SANC members did not want to acknowledge this point. So, and based on that, going forward, even the solutions that were sort of then discussed were still not, you know, didn't really have so much a weight because of the fact that one, this point that racism existed within ISKCON South Africa was not acknowledged by most of the members of the SANC. So that's so my thing is moving forward. What I like about WuSA is the fact that there's solutions going forward. But even with those solutions, we still need to be involved as the Black, you know, as the Black community, because these decisions which the SANC will be making will still be affecting our lives as Black devotees within ISKCON South Africa.
Okay. Do you direct your response to somebody in particular? Do you want a response from someone in particular?
It could be Govardhan Prabhu, could be Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj or Swarup Damodar Prabhu.
And also Prabhanu is also here. That's the chairman of the National Council.
Okay.
Swarup Damodar Prabhu is the chairman.
Okay, Swarup Damodar is the chairman now.
Would the GBCs like to respond to Tribhuvanat's request for clarification?
I could say a few words just on part of it, is that the South African National Council, in terms of constitution, at least my perspective on it personally, is it's very reactive, meaning if someone starts a project or something, they get included. Like I mentioned earlier, they sort of have to be included. If there's, you know, if things are not really going on, then there's nothing to be included. You follow what I mean? I mean, it means like a project, some sort of cohesive, organized effort is not going on, then there's nothing to include. But when there is a cohesive thing going on, then they have to be included. That's been from my perspective as GBC, that's how I've seen it. So it's not been, from my point of view as GBC, it's not been a proactive type of process that we or I say have been looking to see what can be done, where it could be done. Yeah, and then trying to create things, but things are just sort of going on, and if someone starts developing something, then they get it included.
Savi.
Just a thought in hearing what Maharaj has just said. In that to begin to do anything then lends to the idea of having some sufficient, it's just straight out, money is what is can get anything moving. So if you expect impoverished African devotees to first build a temple or start a center, then become recognized, and then become included, by default, you're saying there will never be an inclusion of an African, because what gets the new temples going and new projects generally is coming out of a system that's already working with donors and a whole network. And also, if we look at existing temple structures, the leaders that may be in the management are not that they started these temples. Temples were built before. Some have sort of inherited the posts of managing them. So it's not that they had special qualification to start these places, or that they had their own special funds to set up temples, then they got recognized. So by that outlook, I feel, again, we will keep the Africans at the door and saying that until you are able to start something which we think is significant, then only can you be included. So which I feel is rather disappointing.
Okay, I could respond to that. I don't know if there's a real need to, but or is want. But I acknowledge the need for some financial support. And already, I've given, anyway, there has been some financial support given in some directions.
Hare Krishna, Kadam.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, you've moved to another.
Yeah.
Yep, there you are.
Yeah. So just a comment on. Yeah, I think Maharaj used two terms. Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj used two terms to describe the South African National Council. Well, currently it's reactive based on what's happening, a project, then you sit on a council to represent your project. But in our discussions going forward now, it will be very much more progressive if we make it a proactive approach of a council.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I think that's what Maharaj is looking at. And not that we keep the old sort of system, like Sabyasachi Prabhu says, keep the people at the door, and unless you have something substantial, then only you come in. That's clearly not the right approach. It's not the progressive approach. It's not the approach of the future. So I think going forward, that's what we want to do. And yeah, and I think also in response to what Tribhuvanath Prabhu raised, it's a valid point. When you look at it in that perspective that we have to now go back to the National Council, which is primarily Indian-bodied, to discuss, how to include the Black African devotees more. We're sort of discussing the progress and the lives of the Black African devotees without them. So it does look a bit imbalanced in that way. So two things, we have an already existing constituted body, and there are proper ways of doing that. And in one sense, I feel we should follow the process of reconstituting them properly. But, with the input of these devotees here, whoever is going to be part of a working committee, like Govardhan Prabhu had mentioned, maybe a small group, first go and devise how the South African National Council could be reinvigorated, reconstituted, then take that back to the National Council and plan it out. But I mean, I may be preempting things here, but I can't see how a proactive approach will receive any resistance, or why it should receive any resistance, really.
Can I just let me just throw in a point. I think it's important there on what Swarup Damodar Prabhu said. You know, in terms of taking it to the National Council and getting some response, and how long is it going to take? You know, it can be done very quickly. Just in terms of the system, it can be done extremely quickly by correspondence if there's a need for some process from the National Council. It's not going to have to wait for 6 months for a meeting.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll take more comments, but just 1 minute. We're talking about extending the meeting. So I just wanted to do that before we carry on. And I wanted to sort of say, what are we going to discuss in these, in the remaining time? I would suggest we go until 12 p.m. South African time. That would be another 40 minutes. Would that be acceptable? Or is that's the first thing? If we get a consensus on how much to extend for, if till 12 o'clock is acceptable, that means another 40 minutes of meeting. Then I think what we have been doing, we've been discussing on the agenda items, and also allowing some, you know, some broader discussion to come up. And in the end, I would like to reserve like the last 15 minutes for just determining what is next, when is the next meeting, and so on. So that leaves us then 25 minutes to carry on with the agenda. And, so, okay, if that's agreeable, then we can. Then Navina Radhika wanted to comment.
Thank you, Maharaj. I just wanted to provide some clarity that might assist also with going forward with the agenda and the objectives of the meeting with regards to WuSA's existence and the working group. So the concern is that the working group, the objectives of the working group may dilute what WuSA seeks to do here today. So our ask is that WuSA exists. You know, it is an initiative. It is a group of African body devotees who are already trying to form a sense of community. And what we are seeking to do is to be recognized by ISKCON, by the GBC, and we look for opportunities where we can be supported. In terms of registration, you know, we're happy to register, and the idea we have is around a nonprofit organization. So the discussion in the working group, we just wanted to clarify, is not about how to solve all of the problems around racism through this WuSA initiative. That initiative exists, you know. But we welcome an opportunity for those members within our group to go away and work in various working groups to discuss the recommendation. The recommendation around SANC is just a recommendation around what can be done in the leadership structure to try and alleviate some of the pressures with regards to unhappiness of African devotees. But we don't want it to become the sum total and the substance of what we seek to do here today. For us, it is permission. I think the Govardhan Prabhu mentioned that he may already have a vehicle that might make it easier for us. I think that's an option, provided that, again, it's not something that lies within the control and ambience of an ISKCON structure. We would just like to have a clean start to be able to register and get going on a grassroots level.
I think that's very clear and appreciated. I have seen that in our midst are a number of sannyasis from other areas in Africa, and I see on the agenda 2.4 recommendation for meaningful involvement in consultation of African sannyasis in in the change of management and diversity training initiatives of ISKCON South African management. So I thought, since some of the sannyasis are here, I saw Bhakti Dear Damodar Maharaj, of course I see Mahavishnu Maharaj, and I don't know who else was there. I see Nasringa Maharaj. So maybe we can understand a little bit what this point means, and maybe also hear a little bit from the senior African sannyasis present. And Navina Radhika is
I apologize.
back again.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to provide context, Maharaj, by reading the 4 points on the initial letter, which was that any committee established to deal with racial matters that are affecting Black African people include recognized and senior African devotee leaders from within South Africa. But if there's some challenge in terms of from South Africa, then it's also requested that African sannyasi devotee leaders from countries within the continent of Africa are invited to be part of the decisions made towards leadership change management for South Africa. So I think that the point is that we can appreciate that within the current GBC, we may not have the appropriate level of seniority to start discussing change management. But we can borrow and we can learn from leaders that are working within a different environment, but are African and are having successes in their environments or in their markets, and that they should be part of the decision-making process in terms of bridging this gap or bridging the relationship, the broken relationship between our current management who are not African and African people or African devotees within South Africa.
Okay. All right. So looking for mature input and support on these matters. Is there any comment on that from the GBC side or the National Council side? Prabhanu hasn't spoken, or
Rajabasi, Prabhu.
Rajabasi hasn't spoken. Mukundangri hasn't spoken. So I'd like to invite some of these devotees to also share their perspectives.
Well, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Who's speaking? Oh, Rajabasi, yes. Was it Rajabasi?
Yes, it's Rajabasi here.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Please share your views with us.
He's muted again.
Yeah, he's muted. But I don't know how he can be. Yes. And his camera is also not on. But
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I think there's
could you turn on the video if it's possible? It will make it so much more.
I'm using mobile data, so it's going to eat up.
Okay.
All
your data. Please go ahead.
Oh my data. Yeah. What I was saying, Maharaj, I was saying that it's an opportunity for us to build something moving forward. There has been a few lessons learned from the past. We've made mistakes over the past, but now it's a nice opportunity because we also have a lot of young and enthusiastic devotees. So I'm quite hopeful that with this new platform, we would be able to accomplish a whole lot more. And I'd like to also pledge my support to the devotees in whatever capacity they would see me fit to help.
It's very nice. of course, as I said, I saw Mukundangri. I also saw Pralambari amongst the African devotees who have seniority. And of course, I see Prabhanu Prabhu. Maybe we can get some feedback.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I think Navina Radhika's point on, and several people have mentioned it, about the sort of independence of the WuSA body is important. And the reason why it is important, I think, for me is generally when these topics have come up in the past, that paternalistic tendency of our governing structures inhibits actual growth and solution finding when it comes to these issues. So the solution has to be generated within the Black devotee community. We have to come to the understanding that it isn't going to be an outsourced solution, and it isn't going to be a solution that that we ourselves do not have buy-in and understanding of fully. So in other words, it has to come from within ourselves. And maybe my final point on this is that there's two sides to this coin. There's the one side of recognizing the issue and formulating a solution. Then within the Black community ourselves, Black devotee community ourselves, now this is like, I guess speaking to us, we have to be prepared and ready to take up that leadership. And we have to be prepared to be in it for the long haul. We ourselves can't be reactionary when we have high moments of emotional uproar like we've had over the last couple of months. There has to be a sustained effort from our perspective as African devotees, and that means really seriously taking up the responsibility of leadership with regards to this. So yeah, like Vrajbasi Prabhu, I just want to sort of reiterate my my support and being a servant of whatever initiatives that do come out of this, and yeah, I'm more than happy to serve in any capacity.
All right.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhanu Prabhu.
It's a very nice, very interesting discussion that should have taken place a long time ago. But like Swarup Damodar Prabhu and Jambavan Prabhu said, we are where we are right now, and it is what it is. So I'm here, just like the rest of the National Council, to try and help and support in whatever way or whatever capacity we can to build that bridge that you were speaking about, to try and reach the goals that we set. So I'm very happy to help in whatever way I can. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhanu. Yeah, it is very important that as we can see, I think that the meeting, the overriding mood of the meeting is a constructive one. It's very much looking at a way to go forward in a positive way. I think that's very very nice. I'd like to hear from some others, like, as I said, some other senior African devotees, like maybe Pralambari I saw, and is he still with us? He is not speaking. All right. And then, of course, also Bhakti Nrsinga Maharaj is here, and as senior most South African devotee, and naturally we want to hear from Maharaj also. Okay. Just one moment. I'll just open up the agenda. It's just closed. Yep. So then the last point on the agenda is the request for a commitment to open dialogue without victimization and special discrediting. In other words,
Avina, you can read the whole thing?
yeah, you can. Where is that letter? That's the question.
If you go on wusa.co.za.
I've also shared it on the chat panel, the full letter, as well as the agenda for today. But the point in full was that the dialogue about racism and discrimination continues to be transparent, without victimization, devoid of spiritual discrediting, condescending or silencing of any devotees, especially by means of subjective citation of Shastra or abuse or of influence and power by spiritual mentors. So we agree that by all means, let us always observe true Vaishnava decorum and compassion, no matter what. But this is a real fear amongst African devotees that if you speak out, then you become a target, or this is stored in the memory banks, and it will come back, to hurt you in terms of your spiritual reputation. So it is an appeal that there is some compassion and maturity with regards to the criticism being offered, and that it is viewed as constructive, and it encourages African devotees to actually feel empowered to come and speak and use the processes and the structures that will be established to heal and to also make some progress.
Okay. I guess we need a reassurance from the from either the chairman of the SANC or from the local GBC, just to hear that such an atmosphere is there.
Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you, Navina Radhika. For myself, I've slowly begun to appreciate how, even though when I heard these things before, freedom from victimization and spiritual discrediting, I was trying to figure out how could the leadership be doing something like this? Why would they do something like this? And I could see slowly that actually this is happening in some ways, even subtly. And from the National Council side, and I'm sure the GBCs will also agree that we all commit to an atmosphere that doesn't allow this, and to allow the African devotees to feel confident and secure enough to share their concerns, share their understandings, share their misgivings, and share their requests for opportunities. And if it does come up from any member of the leadership, and in any situation, we commit to address it and regularize it. So at least from my current position of service, I want to commit to that. And if I or any other members have been involved in creating an atmosphere that intimidates or spiritually discredits any of the devotees from speaking out, we sincerely apologize for that.
All right. Would anyone else like to address something on this point? Let's see, I see something. Yeah. Well, I guess, you know, all these things are going to take time, because I just read a comment, you know, can such discussions on the chat, I saw, can such discussions take place also without exaggerated diplomacy? It means that, yeah, there is diplomacy today, and because I'm online, excuse me. I'll be free at 12 o'clock. Sorry, someone on my door. Yeah, to build trust is going to take time, and I think words will not do. It will have to build over time in practical interaction, and I think that's one other reason why it's good to situate WuSA in its own space, so that there is a sense of comfort there, and then discuss the ongoing matters. It's complicated. There are many complicated elements playing, and it will have to show in the field how much there is a real change. One other topic that I'm just trying to find it now on this agenda is, yes, that was number 3 here. A structure is put in place to facilitate the reporting of and disciplinary action against any racist and discriminatory incidents experienced by African devotees and African people in general in this society. We request that all parties appointed to serve in such a structure be appointed through a transparent and consultative process, and that there is a proven track record of spiritual professional credibility of any elected representatives to serve on committees of this structure. As such, we recommend the open engagement of ISKCON Resolve as an international body to have oversight over the process of establishing the structure. Yes, I also had some discussion yesterday with the National Council about that, because there has been an initiative from the National Council in this regards, and as I thought, maybe Govardhan Prabhu can explain what actually is already been done so far, and how this request would relate to that.
Yes, Maharaj, thank you. So we have, I mean, this independent complaints office has been established on the 1st of July. So they've been there for 17 days. It's got a, terms of reference. It functions under ISKCON Resolve, which functions under the International ISKCON Resolve. And in our minds, it was the best intervention at the time. We have to allow them to function to see how it works. And if there's, it's a very dynamic document as way I understand it. If there's opportunities to improve or moderate, add or subtract, that opportunity is there. But if we could allow them to execute their service, they've got a 1-year term of office. So in that 1 year, we'll have a very good idea of how, if this intervention has worked. That is basically the background. Unfortunately, this is formed on 1 July. We're having this conversation today, so we have a mismatch of times. So under the circumstances, that's where it is. It's formulated and appointed, and their service has begun in an independent way. They don't report to the GBCs or the National Council or anything. It's directly under ISKCON Resolve with a dotted line to, if there's a dispute or a discussion is not satisfactory with ISKCON Resolve, then it goes to the International ISKCON Resolve. And that's ISKCON structure at the moment.
Navina Radhika.
I think that in our conversations with the broader members of WuSA when the Independent Complaints Office was established was that at least that this is an action, and it was quite welcomed and promising. The concern was about how the devotees that were appointed within that structure were appointed, and it's not necessarily personal. It's just about if the objective of this complaints office is supposed to be to hear, so to be a safe place for African devotees who have had very painful experiences or have sensitive concerns, to go and be vulnerable enough with those individuals and trust that that information will then be processed fairly and with the due protection, that then the persons that are that form that committee need to have the faith and the support of the broader community. So whilst we appreciate the structure being formed and that it can be very effective, if we take a year to review and involve and get comment from the broader community about the how effective this team will be, or how much faith there is that we can approach this team, then it may not work as efficiently. So the recommendation was to open up some kind of process of feedback or participation or consultation with a broader community of African devotees before making such appointments of individuals that are supposed to be trusted by those devotees. And it's not to say that it only has to be one structure. So for WuSA, our interest is that there is a place for devotees to go, to offload and to speak freely. And that needs to exist outside of WuSA, and that needs to exist within ISKCON structures. But we want to know that there is one that is trusted and people have faith in.
Yeah, I think you'd have to give the Independent Complaints Office a chance to do its work. I don't know if ISKCON Resolves on the line, Maharaj. Maybe they are more
I
in a
don't
better
think
position.
they are.
Tribanga Sundar, if he's online, he could.
Is he? If he is Tribanga Sundar here?
Hi, Bo.
Oh, you are. Fantastic. So Govardhan is suggesting you would explain a bit more what the structure is and how it would operate.
Yeah, so when this body was formed, there was consultation with the Imbizo. Of course, at that point, this newly formed body, the WuSA, was not in existence at that time while this process was going on. So if they were there, then we would surely have obviously consulted them. But when this took about 3 weeks before the launch date on the 1st of July. So when we formed the committee, there was some consultation process, and we've done that, and Swarb Damdar Prabhu can also attest to that. And so right now, what's happening is we have this body formed, and of course, thereafter, there were some comments regarding the formulation for the committee. We used a criteria to achieve that because there's a lot of independence involved regarding the committee. and there's integrity, and there's obviously some service, experience. There's also, we wanted to make a good racial mix, a gender mix. So all those considerations were there. Of course, I'm not saying that there are many African devotees out there who are equally qualified. But the way it stands, this committee fitted that profile of our vetting procedure, and that's what we have at the moment. If WuSA was there a couple of months ago, we would have definitely consulted them, but we dealt with the Imbizo, and the Imbizo obviously, far as I know, did have some input, and we took that input into consideration. So that's where it stands. But as Govardhan Prabhu said, our feeling is this committee has a lot of strengths. We should obviously recognize that as well, and see how we can, if this committee for some reason fails the test, then we can obviously, make changes. But let's at least give them a try. They're all sincere devotees, and they all want to see change and transformation as much as WuSA wants. So that is our, that is our confidence. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I say? Oh, sorry.
Jambu raised his hand. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. I just wanted to be frank and say the committee that we're dealing with, or the GBC, there's certain people in the GBC, the consciousness in the GBC, or certain individuals or a certain person that thinks apartheid was an illusion. That's the reality. That's what we're dealing with. That's why this diplomacy and like all this beautiful English, it's like you can swerve around it, but the real thing that we're dealing with is there's people who already think like that a certain group of people, black people, that were systematically put down, that all of that was an illusion, it was Maya. Those are the real discussions we should be having, because like 30 years, how many of these years we've been counting and sitting down in committees, and I think, you think, but what's been done? That is to EGBC, Maharaj.
Swarup Damodar, you wanted to speak? You still want to speak now?
Okay. Yeah, about the ISKCON, what is it? Sorry, Independent Complaints Committee. I had sent the document to Bontley. It wasn't a document that had a list of names. The list of names were proposed and vetted by ISKCON Resolve directly. I do feel, in retrospect now, considering the important contributions from WuSA, to have more, how would you say, input and discussion on membership. And I think that'll be healthy. I mean, yes, there is an approach that let them do, give them an opportunity to do the service. Of course, we could try and strengthen it. If ISKCON Resolve, hopefully they'll see the benefit in it. They could strengthen it by adding more devotees into it. If that's something ISKCON Resolve would like to do, that'll be good.
Okay, Navina Radhika. You're on mute. Okay.
I just wanted to raise the issue of the strategy that ISKCON has in terms of engagement with African devotees. And, saying that a consultation was there with Imbizo should have covered African devotees within ISKCON. or that an engagement with WuSA should cover African devotees in ISKCON. That is not the case. I think that there's a broad community of African devotees, and ISKCON should understand what its membership is. They should understand, who are the affected African people, and you should have a strategy where you directly make sure that if there are issues that come up or bodies that are formed to speak to that audience, you have a direct channel. Personally, I was surprised when, in response to our letter saying we would like to meet as WuSA, there was a question of, well, where does Imbizo fit in? For me, that in itself is an underlying layer of some unconscious bias, that by virtue of Imbizo being Black representative and WuSA seeming to be Black representative, surely one can answer for the other. It's as ludicrous as saying Krishna Balaram Youth Group on an agenda, for discussion with Krishna Balaram Youth Group, we need to also add that they must answer or have some comment on Radhe Sham Youth Group in Pretoria, or the Bhakti Theatre that targets youth in Radhanath. So this view of lumping, African devotees and boxing them in specific initiatives and saying, well, that is consultation. We consult with one who is Black or African. We've consulted with all. It has to change. And I really encourage that we don't go through a trial and error period with devotees who actually have a need today to have such a body. If you look at the outpouring of issues and traumas and experiences from devotees on Facebook, there is a need for every single one of those concerns to be unpacked. And if there is a vote of no confidence, or if there's an improvement that can be made with regards to the devotees elected to hear those devotees out, then I think we need to prioritize that and not say, let's trial and error, because it's not the devotees who are serving there who I'm sure are committed and are competent that are the priority. It's really not about them. It is about the devotees that we want to serve that are in need.
Very good. It's now 5 to 12, so I guess we have to look towards winding it up and looking at when we would continue. From what I understand, you want to do certain things. You want to call another meeting tomorrow at some time in the morning, and you've been talking about having a number of meetings on detailed discussion with smaller groups. Is that what you've been talking about? And maybe Govardhan and Swarup can also be back on this one, and Savisachi. No. So what about the next meeting? What's the idea, Savisachi?
Thank you very much. I'd just like to acknowledge the in-principle agreements that came up, which is one, there is no problem with the WuSA initiative establishing itself and registering. So we are taking that as a given. Also, I wanted just to also accept again that in principle, as the GBC mentioned, that there should be no problem with WuSA being allowed to use the ISKCON facilities for specialized African preaching programs. I would just like to then give a takeaway to them, asking that if we could, a week or so, I think that's long enough consultation on their part, if they could give us that written approval so that we can begin to do what we can do on our side, because I feel that most of the things that we should now come on board and work it out with SANC, and it's slowing down what we are trying to do on the ground.
Okay. Okay, so you would like a written response, a written, yeah, a written approval within 1 week. What about further meetings?
I'd like to hear maybe a proposal from the National Council, especially based on what topic they would like to meet on, and then we can speak to our constituent and see when we can meet.
Okay. Group. Yeah.
Sorry, can that be repeated? It just broke up a little on my side.
Savisachi, please repeat it.
I'd wanted to know from the National Council on what specific issues that they'd like to have a further meeting on. Maybe they can write to us about that, and then we can also respond to that so we can then plan for that meeting.
Okay, I mean, the agenda items haven't been completed as far as I see. What's left on the agenda? I mean, we haven't finished the agenda.
Well, I think we did. We just jumped from over the topics, but we did, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I have it in front of me.
You're next. Navina Radhika's next, but carry on.
Let's see. I'm just looking at the agenda more closely. Where is it?
Yeah, well, nothing was discussed in detail. There was like all the topics have been mentioned. We heard some background on it. We heard some statements of agreement in principle, but you know, from the side of the SANC, but we didn't really an outright yes, go ahead, you know, a green light, yes, go ahead, register WuSA, yes. Although we heard that yes, maybe there is a Section 18A available. Then we also heard on the other side, but they'd like an independent NGO. All that was sort of discussed. So we had discussion, but no conclusion. Right? Needs that like final conclusion. And Savisachi asked for that like letter, you know, of a written reply also to everything in. So where to take it?
So is there a need then to have another meeting to actually get a like fixed formal response on these points, like the legal entity, existing temple facilities? Of course, it's all been agreed in principle, but you know, principle leads to details. And is there opportunity or a need to then tease out or investigate some of the details of how it would work, so that when some of these action items are actually being carried out, we don't hit unnecessary, roadblocks here and there. Like for instance, you know, temple facilities, you know, like Savisachi probably gave a few sort of scenarios of cooking facilities, temple facilities, at a time where we're not culturally sort of blocked in some way by the other needs of going on in the day. So to, you know, expand on things like that, so we can create like a nice sort of working document that temple leaders will actually agree support, or they will support rather. So I'm looking for more detailed discussions like that to just make sure that these principled agreements are really going to be protected going forward.
Yeah.
So basically I'm getting into detail, I guess, on these things.
There's two things, I think that is happening in this meeting. One is the substance of the agenda. The other thing is everything that lives in the hearts of African devotees, which came out in the last few weeks, which has been expressed and which has been over so many years. So I think this meeting has a dual function. There's a large present. That means there's a lot of people feel concerned with what's happening here. And so I feel it's not just, are we quickly covering an agenda, but it's also, are we really satisfying the community? So is this sufficient, what we have just done? Is everyone going to say, wow, that was great, we're really happy, and we all go home feeling very inspired? Or has that objective not been achieved? I think that is something we would need to achieve, more a sense of, yes, it's going really in a good direction. And that would, for that you would say, have another meeting like this tomorrow, like sort of more like is the ghosty type of an open type of meeting. And the other is go sit down, nuts and bolts, and that obviously is maybe not done in this kind of meeting. That's smaller meetings with smaller people smaller groups of people who get involved in that. Normally that's how it would work. Okay, before you respond, Sarup, let's hear from Navina Radhika has been waiting, and Savisachi is in queue. Yes.
Marge, I was just going to recommend that perhaps we just agree to have another session, perhaps tomorrow or next weekend, and that we allow for everyone to digest what has been shared today and propose agenda items via email, both from WuSA's side or from the SANC side, or even all the devotees present, that they submit agenda items that can be adopted at the beginning of the session. So the only commitment that we make is to meet again for the purposes of concluding the discussion.
Okay. And Savisachi?
I'd want to say if and when we have a follow-up meeting, I would like that we have this type of representation. If you can come and facilitate again, and we can have our seniors, if they are available, sannyasis, Mahaprabhu, Prabhu, to also come so that the mood is as we have had today.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. There are strong requests on the chat side to hear from Bhakti Nrsinga Maharaj. I mean, I see several times it's coming up. I have also asked Maharaj earlier to speak. And Hare Krishna.
Thank you for inviting me to come on board. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we hear you very well.
Well, I'm from South Africa, but I'm not South African by ISKCON. I don't preach in South Africa. There is a reason for that, because I have decided to stay away from injurious situations. I have decided to look into kind of developing myself as a person. And since 1980s, the situation of South Africa has been the same. You just get the same wine in a different bottle. The leadership is the same, it's the same people up to this day. This is a problem that we are in a situation of what I call social imbalances. In social engineering, is called social imbalances. Social imbalances creates a lot of volcanic eruptions. Since the new South Africa unfolded, ISKCON South Africa has not changed. The same people, the same leaders, the same methodology, the same ideologies are still in place in that country. Why? Because we are attached to our status quo. We are attached to what makes us feel good. I'm sorry to speak so heavily. This is my nature. That's why I didn't want to speak. Because I've been there since 1980. I know what these devotees are feeling. It's the same thing that we felt in 1980s. The same thing they are feeling in 2000. Because you're dealing with the same gin, just in a different bottle. So I appreciate what these devotees are saying, but at the same time, I'm sorry to speak the way I'm speaking, because this is who I am. I was there in the 1980s, in the 1990s, in 2000. It's the same thing, just different people. So this is the problem that is causing all these frictions. It's called social imbalances. I didn't want to speak, but I would say, for me, I can get involved. Maybe it depends how devotees want me to get involved. But as I said before, is that it's the same people, same ideologies that we have also in Kenya. It's the same people, same ideologies. Changes means changes. Talking is just another thing. I've had this sweet talking for many, many years. I was a member of the National Council. I was voted the chairman of the National Council many times. Same thing, same ideologies going on. You're just a puppet. You have to listen or dance according to the tunes of your mind. This is the problem. We can sit here and talk. Everyone is a sweet talker. But what has to happen is the action. It's the action. And I'm sorry to speak like this because I'm just the example of survival. Being in a situation that is intended to suppress your growth, to destroy you. But somehow or other, by Krishna's grace, I survived. So what I'm saying is the same people, the same ideology. That has to change. It comes from our heart. We can talk philosophy. We can talk so many managerial points here. Just like if I'm meant to care for my neighbor, if I've cooked food, he's hungry or she's hungry, I'm not sharing, it's just theory. So that's what has to happen. It's just the change of heart towards other people, that's all. I've seen this many, many times. I was in National Council, so many, many talks. But what has to happen is the action. When people feel that we are just being manipulative, discriminative, we speak nice philosophy. What made me stay in ISKCON is the mood and the attitude of the devotees that I first met. If I had to join today, I would have not joined. Because It's not about philosophy. We can sit in meetings, talk and talk. Our attitude, Prabhupada writes in the preface of Nectar of Instruction, that is, it's about our attitude towards others in devotion. That's the thing. So what I'm saying, I'm sorry again to be so heavy. It's not my nature. I was made like that because I grew up in that country. And not that I'm against anyone, it's just that to sit and just hear the same thing. You know, oh yes, it will be nice, we'll try to be nice to you. It just makes no sense to me. Why should we tell people, we are going to be nice to you now? Because we are crying, we are going, no one should cry. Just because they are crying, oh, okay, we are going to be nice to you. You see, I speak like this, I cut. Even your GPC, I met many times, I told him the same thing. He doesn't listen to me. He's just like, blah, 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 diplomacy. It's the same thing. The change, when we talk about being a devotee, Advaita Sarva Bhutana Maitram Karuna Evacha. He is non-envious of anybody. He is friendly. This is Krishna speaking in Bhagavad Gita. He is friendly to all. He is free from the sense of proprietorship. These are the things that we have to display towards others. All these will not work. But when we look into what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita and what are our actions, and that's when we can correct ourselves. I'm sorry to speak so strongly. I'm just a strong person.
Okay.
Next time, invite me to your meetings because I do not compromise. I've been through the process myself. It's the same thing, same people, same ideology. The Bhagavad Gita says, Samadarshana, a devotee who advances Samadarshana. The cause of all this is called social imbalances in social engineering. We've seen that also. I grew up in that kind of society in South Africa. Social imbalances. Other people were neglected, they erupted. We erupted because of that. If that government had given facilities to all people, they would be still in power. It's not about the body. It's not about being white or being an African. It's social imbalances.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the point. That I had many things. I was in National Council. I had same things. But changes, how far we have changed. This is the point. We can sit here and talk and talk and talk. This is not really what the scripture says. The scripture says if you're a devotee, Advaita Sarva Bhutana Maitram Karuna Evacha. You must become free from enviousness. You must be friendly to all. Otherwise, as long as we are just holding to our prestigious positions, territories that are comfortable to us, there's no question of being equal to all. It's the same ideology. That is why we have imbalances. You can study the history of the world according to social engineering. All the frictions are caused by imbalances. When some parts of people are neglected, they will grow and erupt in the future. If you give everyone opportunities, you give everyone a chance to breathe fresh air, no problem. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be a leader of the people indefinitely. So that's a problem in that country. I've been through this. I cannot say what I've been through because I don't want these young devotees to know that. And they may think that I'm like unforgiving. This is the problem. You apply the principles of Bhagavad Gita, you apply the principles of the Bible, you get the same result. If you bring your own ideas and then you get another result. It's called social imbalances. just talk, 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 in reality, people remain the same.
Let's see, Maharaj, if I may say so. If I may say so, Maharaj.
Yes.
We hope. You have stated the history, and we know it. I also know it. And I'm sitting here today, right, for only one reason, not for my fun, but in the hope that this time we can make a change. And maybe not in a day, but we'll try. We cannot just say, I see it over and over, and then just, so let's go home and just say it doesn't work. No, we're here today to say, let's get to work and let's do something. And I see that there's a group here who wants to work. And I feel that that is, Maharaj, is a sign of hope.
Yeah.
You
have a hope. You have faith. It will happen.
It will. We're gonna do it.
Yes.
We gotta do it.
Definitely.
We gotta do it, Maharaj. Sabi Sachi.
I just want to thank Bhakti Nishinga Maharaj. And just, you know, because of Vaishnava decorum and also not wanting to be profiled and for having so-called extreme views, you know, we have to temper with speaking what we are feeling because we are so intimately involved with this movement. Like, for example, I'm a sannyas candidate out of South Africa. And my heart doesn't feel like a sannyas candidate of South African National Council. You know, it's just a consequence of time and my Guru Maharaj wanting me to do this. But I feel, as we've stated in our WuSA proposal, the breakdown of genuine Vaishnava relationships has led to just an artificial dealing. So even in this meeting, as Maharaj is pointing out, talk, we can see that things that are quite clear and not in any way dubious, like authorized, we can use ISKCON, we are members, the infrastructure. Authorized that we can register our initiative just as other initiatives are existing, which are affiliated. When it comes to the African issues, then now we have to go back and discuss this in meetings. And then either we have to come and work with us and help us discuss how to deal with you. So these are part of the talk. You know, I feel like National Council is sober enough, advanced enough, devotees, experienced enough, if they're actually seeing that African preaching should go on. And of course, the African membership has become so thin that they can easily say that where are the qualified Africans? Why? Because they've been chopped along the wayside and they've left. We met many qualified African devotees when we came to this movement. But 10 years is lucky if you stay within the temples and survive that. So at the end, then you can say, we're the competent ones. That's because the system of running ISKCON in South Africa doesn't use the Vaishnava principles that wins the heart and keeps members so that they can actually do something amazing within their communities. So as our initiative has come forward, I would say let's not, again, try to make many more meetings. I think it's quite clear what we're stating in our proposal. Let us have our own failures. Let us learn if we're going wrong. But we want to work with ISKCON. This is what we're saying in a humble way, but we like to be given that standing, that dignity, to have our own failures, to form our own community within the community of ISKCON. Not being like, you know, patted on the shoulder. No, it's okay. Just if you work with us, if you report to people we have chosen without consulting you, then things will be all right. That is like, time for that is over. We ask that Kadamba Karamas be here so that we don't get to these levels of, you know, because we're trying to be respectful and we're trying to say that we are not those people who are trying to destroy ISKCON. Because believe you me, within the African devotees, there is even a feeling that we can engage external sources to this movement, to point out that this racism is at the core of how Africans experience this movement. And that would mean that this movement is in jeopardy, which we do not want. WuSA doesn't want to derail PowerPoint's mission, doesn't want to spoil public opinion about our movement. We just simply want to exercise our spirit of volunteering in serving Krishna in ways that we are inspired to do with persons that we are inspired to be with. And that is the African community wants to do African preaching. Please give us some letter in a week that, yes, we agree with you, because African preaching is #1 on our list for many years. I've seen National Council meetings. Item #1, African preaching, African preaching. Otherwise, it will be talk, 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 another 1,000 meetings.
Action is needed.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Yes, Mahaprabhu.
Mahaprabhu again, yes. You know, to say this, unfortunately, most of us, we want changes without us changing. Unfortunately, that's the part. We need changes, but without us changing. We are all concerned. I'm concerned, everybody's concerned, or this meeting is all about concern. But at the same time, are we influencing the situation? That's a question mark. We have to influence what you call the situation to make significant changes. You know, and yes, I think this is a beginning. You know, a forum like this is a beginning. You know, and then I hope it will bring constructive results so that each and every person within ISKCON, irrespective, you know, they can be engaged fully and experiencing what Krishna consciousness is all about. So yes, you know, let's see this going through. We are building this for our future, for the future of African devotees who are to come in the future. You know, we're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing even for the future generation that is to come. I don't want my daughter, my grandchildren to grow in this environment. I really don't want to see that. I want them to grow in an environment that is supportive, that is giving them the juice of what Krishna consciousness is all about. So let's build this for the future generation, not for us. You know, I'm closer to where I'm going now. I can leave my body at any time. But before then, I want to see that in the future generations, you know, they will be taken care of very nicely. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. No, I think it's really important, you know, Bhakti Nrsimha Maharaj spoke straightforward, and I think that really is necessary. It's true that that otherwise the meeting is too flat and it doesn't really get to the real issue that is out there. So I'm appreciative, Maharaj, and don't mind my strongness, as you have your nature. I'm just also not so diplomatic. What can I do? And Mahaprabhu is also deeply concerned to see a change, and that in itself is a great statement. I think so. I think Mahaprabhu speaks, you know, then we see someone who is part of the history for so many years and who has a reputation of just being a dedicated servant. And when our dedicated servants begin to speak that there's a need for change, I think then there is a need for change, very much so. So, therefore, I think we should reconvene a meeting tomorrow at what time was set? 11? Did I hear 11? Sarup, was it 11? I heard 11 floating around, 11 till 1 or what? Or a meeting tomorrow?
Yeah, 11's good. 11's fine if that works for the general body.
Yeah. So that would be a proposal to meet again tomorrow at 11. Does that make sense? Or would you want the meeting to be later? Because I also heard Samar Navina Radhika say maybe next week.
I mean,
maybe next week.
I think tomorrow is good, and if more senior devotees like Bhakti Deva Damodar Maharaj, Charadeshna Maharaj, and others could also be open to speaking their minds and hearts, that will be productive.
I think so. I think, you know, Bhakti Singh Maharaj sort of opened the discussion, right, to a more heartfelt platform. And I thought that was, Maharaj spoke strong, but, you know, the feelings are strong. So it's good.
But I mean, it's as whatever works for the general body.
Yeah. So Savi Sachi and Navina Radhika have been very vocal. Others, please tell us, is tomorrow okay or next week would you prefer?
Tomorrow would be nice, but perhaps in a week's time would give more people time to digest and come forward with more ideas.
Yeah. So you prefer next week? Savi Sachi? Or both?
Yes, I would like to, yes, give the chance to also National Council to take in what we've said in terms of our proposal, and so that when we meet, they're also able to present, you know, what they've concluded, so that it, yeah. So we could meet.
It favors next week, what you say, is it?
I'm too small to suggest, you know, I'd like to find out, especially because we want to hear from...
Don't be too small to suggest, then we all get confused. Please suggest something.
What I'm saying is that I want the senior devotees, the sannyasis, to say when they are available, the ones we'd like to hear from Dear Damodar Maharaj if he wants, Chaudesha Maharaj if he wants, so based on their availability. For me, tomorrow and next week is fine.
Yeah. For me, tomorrow is great. Next week, Saturday would be okay. Sunday is not going to work. If you want me there. And I can do both also, whatever you wish.
Maybe then let's do it tomorrow, just to keep the momentum.
Yeah, there's now a momentum. It's also, you go home for 1 week. I mean, I don't think tomorrow then everything will be resolved and everything will be fixed. But okay, you know, we want to stop. We just keep on working until things are going really in the right direction. I think that's what we're working on. Navina Radhika.
Marge, I second tomorrow for the broader discussion around change, but I would like an outcome of today to be a commitment from the National Council that they will give a written response to WuSA with regards to our initiative in terms of registering and going ahead with WuSA as an entity.
Okay, Sarup Damodar.
Yes, Marge, we can provide a written response in the next, well, we'll meet now, I guess, amongst a few of us, and hopefully by tomorrow or within a few days, provide a written response so that next week's meeting can be more, well, if there's opportunity, more focused on some of the details. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So tomorrow at 11, and then from there on, we can set further dates for further meetings. Is that okay? Then you are providing again the platform, right? As you did today, and so on. And so we'll wait to hear from you with the link for tomorrow's meeting starting at 11. Tentatively 2 hours, or is that? No, I think so. Okay. Govardhan Prabhu, thank you very much for being with.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
And please forgive me for my poor, to all of you, for my poor, how you call it, moderating meetings. It's like difficult to do. I'm not the best at this. But anyway, I am here because I would like to see a real solution, something really, not just talk, but let us go forward and get some substance. That is what I would like to see. And I see again that hand of Navina. Okay.
I just want to say that we will publish the Zoom meeting details on the WuSA website, www.wusa.co.za.
Also, I have a question. Like, someone should give us some notes or minutes from this meeting, right? Basically, what you think the outcome was, or what issues still need further resolve. Some documents should come out of this meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very, very much, and we'll be leaving now, and see you again. Vanchakalpatrubhya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama. I don't want to.